Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you're here. Once a month, some of my crafty friends and I are working our way through this sketchbook from close to my heart. This is the Make It From Your Heart Volume 6, and today we are creating Pattern 3. So I know Melanie from Mel Stampin' Gallery is playing along, so you'll want to check out her video. She's using, different papers, and it'll be fun to see her take on this sketch. You'll notice I only have 2 photos, and on the sketch they have 3. They have a large photo in the center and then 2 supporting photos on either side. So I've got an idea for this additional space where I am lacking a photo. This is my mom and I. We'd love to visit our local apple ranch, and every fall they go all out for the season, and I just love all the orange pumpkins. I think it's so fun and festive, and this is something my mom and I do every year. We like to go have some coffee, and they're known for their apple cider cookies. They're amazing. What's fun about these sketchbooks is they give you 2 different ideas for the same sketch, and they flipped it. And they're using different papers and different themes, and they also give you the measurements. They tell you exactly what size to cut everything, and they're even labeled, so it takes the guesswork out of it. You can follow along and create beautiful layouts at any level of scrapbooking. So I am going to pop this out on my desk. I'm a visual scrapbooker, so I am following the measurements of the squares, but then I'm going to put it together just by the look and feel of the design. This is a fabulous layout for scraps. I'm going to pull this whole layout together with just little tiny squares. And this is great when you're at the bottom of a paper collection and you just have little bits left over. This is a great way to use up those tiny little squares. So these are 2-inch squares, and these are double-sided, so I've got some options here. I think I am going to go with this one. It's a smaller scaled pattern. So smaller scale's nicer when you're working with a tiny bit here, because you can take in more of the details. So this is from the Gnomes for Autumn paper collection, and I'll be just using this collection to document these photos. It's just such a beautiful collection of fall colors and patterns, and I love fall. Fall is just one of my favorite seasons to document. Here's a look at that paper pack not cut up. I actually went to a scrapbooking retreat, and this was one of the gifts that they gave us. It was such a generous gift, and we got to create, there's a little gnome that you can get the thin cut. There's a whole bundle, but you can get the gnome thin cut. So we made them while we were at the retreat. Isn't she cute? I'm not sure. I'm not going to use her on today's project, but I know that she will be super cute on a future layout. So I just wanted to show you these beautiful patterns in their entirety. And look at those cute little gnomes raking leaves in their sweaters. And I think it's just adorable. And then the sticker sheet: leaves are falling, autumn is calling, sweater weather, thankful autumn is in the air, and lots of fun little icons for embellishing. Let me move all my little scraps out of the way there, and I am going to build this on a sheet of white daisy. I think I'm going to do a small frame of espresso cardstock. They do not have a frame, and I want to make this easy on myself with my measurements and the spacing, so I'm going to build it up and then trim it. Maybe we'll see how it goes. So white daisy for my base, and then I've got my 2 photos here that are going to go across the center, and I'm going to use that 3rd photo space for my title. I have a stamp set in mind for my stash. I think it's going to look really good right there. So basically we just need to take our scraps here and start arranging them on the layout, just to make sure our patterns are balanced and everything kind of flows across the layout. So again, these are double-sided, so I can kind of interchange them as I see fit. Before I lay these out, I know me, and I'm going to want those edges inked up. So I have my Espresso ink, and I want the finest little line. If you use your sponge tool, which I usually do, you tend to get a little bit more color. So this one will just be super fine. I'll go ahead and get the rest of these done off camera, so you don't have to watch me inking up all of the little bits and pieces here. I have all of my little squares inked up. Now, if you look at the sketch, you can see they have 4 different patterns / colors. They've used some of them as cardstock. This one, they're all pattern paper. This one's cardstock, and if you look closely, they splattered it with white. splatter. It's what it looks like anyway. And then they have cut 2 squares in half and done like a 2-tone square. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep them solid, but they tell you exactly what patterns go where. So I just looked at that and I picked 4 different patterns, and I'm going to just make sure that those are spread out. You don't want all of the greens in one area and then all the oranges in one area. You want them to kind of flow and carry your eye. So on the bottom here, they have 4 different, squares, or, I guess some are triangles. So I want to make sure that I have 1 of each pattern in that area, right? And those are my 4 patterns. I'm going to use the green. This is pumpkin with those beautiful fall leaves, the stripe, which is gorgeous because it brings in all the colors, and then this very fun, beautiful fall icons on the background. Aren't those mushrooms adorable? I don't know what it is about mushrooms. I think they're just so cute. So there's my 4 for down there, and then we're just going to, again, make sure that we have those repeated, the colors flowing across. So I am going to I had some of them cut into triangles already. So let's just put those there, and then I can trim off the outside edges. And I like to dry fit everything because then you can just kind of move it around. So we've got a stripe, and then I'm kind of, using this as my guide. You can see they've got that yellow pattern is their most dominant, and it creates this zigzag pattern. So I feel like my green is my most dominant, so I'm going to mimic that zigzag pattern across the top there. Again, they tell you exactly what patterns to put where, so it really takes the guesswork out of it. But me, I just gotta, like I said, I'm an eyeballer, so I'm gonna do it my own way. And then let's put a stripe up here. Isn't this a great use for scraps? I have a whole playlist on utilizing scraps. So if you want to challenge yourself to make a dent in all of those paper scraps, because let's face it, we all save them, right? I don't know if you have a rule of thumb on what size that you decide it's worth keeping or not, but as paper crafters, we like to save our scraps. So let me just see here. Now, I actually took the time to lay this out ahead of time, and now I'm trying to remember where all of my bits and pieces go. I don't know why I didn't take a picture. I almost always take a picture when I do lay it out ahead of time. So yeah, we're just kind of starting over. We can just move these around and see where they fit best. So this paper does have a direction, but I'm okay with it on its side. It's not upside down, it's just on an angle. And then this little triangle, that should be a full square, but I have an idea to cover that. So they have used their pictures across the center. I tried that out and I placed them, and it's okay, it works, because you'll see they have the little white space there and there, and so theoretically, if this was a whole triangle, my 3x4 picture would go there. But what I decided to do is bring in some cardstock. This is almond from my stash, and I cut this to 6 inches by 12, and I am going to use my Versamat and center that, so the 9 and the 3, so we have 3 inches above and 3 inches below, and then I'm going to mat my photos on here. So this is not an actual 4x6, it's a 4x5.5, and then we have a 3x4 here. I do have all of those squares adhered down, so I need to just cut the edges flush, and I have my non-stick microtip scissors. That way, if there was adhesive on those pages or pieces where it kind of went over, it won't stick or gum up my blade. It cleans right off of there. So you can use your paper trimmer, but sometimes I find it easier just to use the scissors for something like this. I am not super great at cutting a straight line. You could see that I messed up right on that one, but we'll just go back over it and trim it flush. And then when you ink up the edges, it camouflages any, imperfections, if you will. So I can save these triangles for a different project. Maybe we'll make a card out of those. And then those little bits that I trimmed, they don't have any inking. So I just want to hit the edges of those so they match the rest of the pieces. And we'll just get that. And then this little guy down here, one more, and perfect. Okay, so we can bring this piece back in, and then my photos here. If you don't have almond, shortbread, or toffee works very beautifully. Those are coordinating colors for this particular collection. Since I do not have that third photo here, I want to create a title. Now you could use this for your journaling. You could do a journaling block here in a 3x4 square or rectangle and have that look instead of the photo, but I want to use this stamp set. It's an old one. This is from my stash. It's called Poster Tidings. It was a stamp of the month, but I love it. I love this design. These are a bunch of fall words, and the other side was, you can see it's Christmas words. So now this is a little bit too big. I mean, I could use the whole thing, but I want to try to capture more of this size. So what I'm going to do is some masking and just, mask off part of this stamp. So to make this easier, I'm going to use my stamp positioner. You can see this is a very well-loved stamp. It's got lots of staining on there, but that of course doesn't hurt anything. So here's a piece of white daisy. I'm just going to use my magnet to secure that. So not only am I going to mask off the bottom, but I want to add some different colors to this. So I chose 3 colors that coordinate with my layout. I've got Espresso, Pumpkin, and Scarlet. And what I thought I would do is, you can see that there's a few large words. So at the beginning of the large word, I'm going to separate it into different colors. So we'll start with Espresso at the top. Let me move this over so you can see what I'm doing. You'll need some type of masking tape. I'm just going to use Post-it notes because they're the perfect size for this, and mask off the different sections. So this first one says Autumn, October, Homemade Apple Pie, and this is an apple ranch, so I thought that this was absolutely perfect. So I'm just lining that up. We'll start with the espresso ink first, and then ink up just the top portion here. We don't have to be careful because our paper mask is blocking off anything we don't want inked up. So then we can just close our misty door, give that a good press. We can ink it up again if we don't get a good impression. And my paper's sticking, that's okay. Just put it right back in the corner. And that actually looks really good. I'm going to stamp it one more time just to get it nice and dark. The inks will lighten up a little bit as they dry. So the color will be slightly lighter than what you see to begin with. So just repeating the process. That is a super sticky stamp, and that looks good. So now I'm going to wipe that off. You want to make sure it is very clean. We are going to mask it off to ink up the second half, but then we'll have to remove that mask to stamp. So I've got my stamp chamois here. I wet this each time I'm going to craft, and to wash it, you just wring it out with water until all the ink is running clear. Or I should say until the water's running clear. And then I like to take just a piece of recycled printer paper here. This is a packing invoice. And just make sure you're not getting any ink transfer, and I'm not. So that's ready to go. So fall is our next big words, and I'm going to mask off the top. And you can do this with so many different stamps and give them a fun new look. So, check out the stamps you have in your collection and see how you might do this technique with what you have. So I know a lot of you probably have this stamp, so hopefully it'll inspire you to dust it off and put it to work this fall season. Let's go with the pumpkin this time around and ink that up. So you want to ink it up, and then you will remove your masks, stamp that down. Oops, my magnet's in the way. Make sure you're in the corner. And using the stamp positioner does make this so much easier because it's going to be lined up each time. Put it back in the corner. That looks good. Now we'll repeat the process one last time with the Scarlet ink. Just to extend your stamp collection even further, look for ways like you can use this masking technique to isolate just a small portion of the stamp. So if you just wanted the word autumn and October, or fall and gratitude, you could just, stamp those two and cut them out and use those on your layout as an embellishment or accent or subtitle or something like that. So there's so many things you can do with stamps. I did cut that down and ink up the edges. That's going to sit right there. Now it's time for the fun embellishing. If you caught my last video I created for the creative design team, there were some 6x8 fall layouts. I used these pumpkins. I have a whole bunch of these, so I'm putting a good dent in them. They are from the Cozy Up collection, and that stamp set is no longer available, but I do want to use up my pumpkins. And then I had a whole bunch of these sunflowers from a print and cut design I used from Cricut. Now I'm thinking I will put a little embellishment cluster here, and then I want to build something up here and maybe a little something here. I also have this stamp set. It's called Floral Notes, and I did get the option with the coordinating thin cut. So you can see there's these gorgeous fall floral bouquets. They've got some sunflowers and mums, and then lots of greenery with the little berries accents there. So I thought that these look very similar to these sunflowers I already had. So I thought it'd be nice to add in some different colors. So I am going to color these in. I stamped this with intense black ink because I'm going to color them in with my Spectrum Noir TriBlend. So this is an alcohol marker friendly ink. And I went ahead and stamped all three. I'm going to color one here on camera. I figured you guys didn't want to watch me coloring all of those images. So I have a color palette here that I think will go quite nicely. I've got both burnt orange and dark red that I will use interchangeably in the different clusters for my mums, and then gold yellow for the sunflowers. It's a beautiful sunflower color and goes along nicely with this one. For the sunflower centers I have gold brown shades, and then the dull green blend, which goes quite nicely with this color here in the pattern paper. So these are small images. I'm not going to do a lot of shading on the florals, but the leaves are a little bit bigger, so there's some fun room for shading there. But I can add different colors in the sunflower because there's petals in the back and then petals in the front that'll lend itself well to the different tones in this marker of the gold yellow blend. I'm only going to use both the medium and the dark colors. I want to skip the light shade of this one just because I feel the medium and the dark match the sunflowers that I created in Cricut Design Space. So I'm just going to add, I'm going to go around with the light, and then I'll add little bits of the dark color to the petals that are kind of recessed and in the background and create some little shadows there. So these markers are so fun. I absolutely love them. And they're very easy to use. With the bullet tip, you can get into these tiny little points on these images. I'm going to switch to the brown for the center. I'm going to use the darkest color around the outside edge and then kind of go in a little bit further with the medium and then the light in the very center here. And then as far as the dull green, I'm using the medium color to go over the veins in the leaves and then around the base. And then I'll blend it all in with the lightest shade of green. And then I'll use the very darkest shade of this same marker to color in the small elliptical shaped leaves. And that way we're using one marker and getting lots of depth and variation in this floral bouquet. I enjoy coloring. I like to put on a crafty video and just kind of watch and listen as I'm coloring these images because there were 3 of them. So it did take me a little bit to get them all colored in, but I absolutely love being able to customize them to coordinate so beautifully with my layout color scheme. So if you had a different fall color palette, you can choose colored markers or pencils or whatever it is you're going to color them with to match your project. So I'm going to get these die cut out. Here are all 3 of those floral bouquets, and you can see on the longer one I colored that one orange, and that's the burnt orange color, and the others are red. So I have more room up top, so I think I'll put the big one up there, and then maybe this one here. I still want to use these sunflowers, so I thought that they would look nice kind of blended together. Let's try the smaller one. I do like that better. That looks a little bit more natural. And by mixing and matching these, I can adhere some directly to the layout and then pop others up with foam tape and give them that separation and dimension. I think that'll look really nice. I mentioned earlier potentially using that space over on the right for your journaling. If you chose to do that, you could add the title underneath the center photo between the pumpkins and the pattern paper squares, and I think it would look really nice. I am going to add some journaling to the white space beneath this embellishment cluster here. I'm just tucking in a few leaves, and I think I want this small sunflower over here rather than using that stamped image. I also have a couple stickers from the sticker sheet and arrow, and then this one says crisp days with a little apple on it. I thought some wooden hearts might look nice. I want to use up some of these hearts, and I thought, I don't get a lot of opportunity to put hearts on a layout, so I thought this one would work well for my mom and I. And I love the wood element with the fall layouts. I think it coordinates really well. So we could try a little heart over here, maybe one up here. Yeah, it just kind of gets lost. Let's see if more has a bigger impact. I don't like them. We'll just leave the hearts off and go in the 2 bottom clusters. Now for my journaling, I'm going to create this little soft glow of color. So I'm blotting that off on a piece of scratch paper first because I want it just really subtle. And I'm using the pumpkin ink to create kind of an oval right here, and I'm going to stamp some journaling lines over the top of this to document the story behind these photos. I do prefer the blending brushes for this because you can put the color on a little softer. Now I'm going to use the Espresso ink, and then I have this Setting the Scene stamp set from my stash. There's some journaling lines on here, and I think they're kind of fun because they're staggered back and forth. You can definitely grab your journaling pen and draw some lines, or put pencil lines, document your story, and then erase them. But I think that sometimes it's fun to have the journaling lines. So I'm going to stamp these right onto that color we created on the background, and that looks good. I think I want to move this arrow down to this section right here. So I'll go ahead and tape that directly to the layout, and then add this one. Let me get some tape on here because I removed the adhesive earlier. I'm actually going to overlap the photos so those are connected. I did add the story with my journaling pen here in the sepia color, and I also added some dots from the Cozy Up dot collection. I used the little hearts in the paprika color, and I thought those looked so fun. Some of those are popped up on foam tape. I don't know if you can see that dimension there, but I really love how this turned out, and having that sketch made it so simple. You can find all of the supplies I used to create this layout in the description box below, along with links to everyone else who's playing along, and it'll be fun to see their different takes on this sketch. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Thank you so much for doing that, and I will see you very soon here on YouTube.